to make me go away through the courts.
Yeah, supposedly this is one of the reasons people will go to things like Getty Images or whatever, because they just want the safety of. But of course, they could get something like Creative Commons if they wanted to. I don't think enough people know about this. And of course, we also we talked previously about the incident where you had these. I cannot remember what they're called, but there was a group that was looking to raise money to attack the Creative Commons, and it kind of leaked out that they did that.
Right, that one that doesn't ring any bells to me. I'll have to have a look into that, and certainly if we find
it was about a year ago. Yeah.
Right.
No, the whole copyright thing. I mean, is when you're talking about there's so many people who will be accused of copyright infringement. The thing is, I mean, laws are only as good as the fact that they're respected by the mainstream. I mean, you walk down the street, you see people spitting in the street. That's against the law, but there's no copper is ever. I mean, you could spit in front of a copper, and he's not going to do anything because he knows it's not worth my time.
It's a $202 ticket in some places in the States.
Yeah, what I mean is that people have. I mean, there's so many studies now that say that people think that sharing files is perfectly normal. It's perfectly there's no shame in it anymore. You know, you bring your CDs in, you rip them onto your MP3 player. If your mate wants a copy, you just give them a copy, you put them on BitTorrent and whatever. It's just perfectly normal now. Despite all the scare stories, despite all the fear and the propaganda that the copyright industry are determined to push through, despite all the warnings, piracy is theft, blah, 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 people just don't buy it. And that's not just the techie people, that's your average person in the street now. I mean, my mum rips her, I mean, okay, I'm not going to name her music because it would shame me. I had to grow up to that. Seriously.
Does that mean, is it Cliff Richard?
God, no, I wish it was Cliff Richard. That's how bad it is. But anyway, she's got all these CDs and she rips them onto she's got a Sony MP3 player, but she rips them through the computer and puts them onto that. Now, technically, she's breaking some law that Sony say, you can't do that, you know? But she does that. She doesn't think it's illegal. She doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. She's paid for the CD. So that's what I'm saying. People there's a whole disconnect between what the copyright, cartels want people to do and what people think is normal. They keep mentioning stealing. It's stealing. It's not stealing. These companies don't lose anything. It's a copy. It's not stealing. It's copyright infringement. It's not stealing. So people just, if the mainstream of society don't respect that law, don't think there's anything wrong with that law, then nothing's going to change. You know, I mean, if you say how many people in say in the UK are got BitTorrent clients, are regularly downloading stuff on BitTorrent and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine it would be a large chunk of the PC owning population.
But I think every distro that I've had a look at certainly comes with bundled either transmission or deluge. I don't think I've ever come across a distro that hasn't had a bundled BitTorrent client in there. And I mean, it is damn good.
Well, no, and see, that's the other thing. There's this implication going on in this whole copyright thing that any form of copying or distribution is wrong. Like what he was saying, it's if you bought the CD and you want to listen to it in a different format or device, that shouldn't be stealing because of where the law's gone. That's been defined as stealing. Personally, I don't think the torrent protocol is bad. The torrent protocol, in my opinion, is the only way we're going to solve the bottleneck problem going on in the internet and actually distributing the load of data around the internet as a whole. We shouldn't be looking upon this as the enemy. We should be looking on it as a solution. It's like embrace the new technology, figure out how to license properly, figure out how to protect proper interests without making it an enemy. I mean, we should be able to go back to fair use where I have two friends. I give friend A and friend B a copy, so they're turned on to something I like, and usually that results in them liking it if I guess them right.
See, there's another angle that just occurred to me about If the large corporations manage to demonize BitTorrent as a concept, just to get people to assume BitTorrent is illegal and BitTorrent must be blocked, and ISPs must block it, and anyone using BitTorrent is a criminal, and blah blah blah. That's a distributed bandwidth system. That means that lowers the bar to people. I mean, I could build a distribution just now, an ISO image, full DVD image. I don't have to. I mean, look at what Philip Newborough's done with Crunchbang. He's removed the direct download option because he can no longer afford the costs of 700 meg CDs, CD images. Switch it on to BitTorrent, and that lets people spread the distribution. If you take that away, what you're doing is basically pulling a ladder up and saying only the people who can afford to pay out the direct server hosting can host music files, video files, CD, images, and that type of thing. And that brings it back to the gatekeepers. Only the people with money are the gatekeepers.
And aside from the monetary concern there, that's also a infrastructure limitation, because now we've created single point of failures. Even if you have distributed arrays on the other side, it's still single point of failure. So we've actually set the internet backwards, not forward.
Well, sorry, Roy, we're cutting you out of that. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I suppose since you mentioned the way that the internet works, it's supposed to be very much resistant to cutting off nodes in the network. So if you imagine the way the bandwidth works now, you've got these data centers, and they have all the upload speed, or from their point of view, it's called upload. To us, it's, we like to brag about our download speeds. We cannot really upload things very fast, and the reason is all the power is in these nodes, in those kind of like big brain cells that send you all the data from the servers, and they tend to be centralized in places like Telehouse in London, and all kinds of data centers in Chicago and New York, whatever. Now, if you could get people to work with meshes and take full advantage of the capacity of the to increase the utilization of their network capacity, they would be capable of sharing things like software and games and music by working within their own network without ever having to connect to the original source of stuff. Now, the advantage there probably won't be realized here, but if you go to Africa and you see how long it takes them to even get something like a music editor for a Linux distro, it takes them ages because the internet is very slow. We usually don't think of that. We just think, just install it. It's not a problem. For them, it's both expensive and it's extremely slow. If you enable them to take advantage of a decentralized internet, they can actually get the film, let's say from a person in the same country, or a person who's accessible through the same connection point, the same. I'm just trying to think what it's usually called, something else. But anyway, if he can avoid doing all those hops up to Europe and the United States and going through all these big cables, then everyone enjoys more wealth of information, basically more knowledge, more games, more films, whatever. And we don't think about that because we have lots of bandwidth here. What these companies try to do is to ensure we still rely on the equivalent of like relying on CNN and CBS and these big networks. And these big networks tend to be centralized in a data center that's really operating at very high budgets of billions. We don't need that if we have a connection, and the cost that we're supposed to be paying is just the bits going up and down the network, which is a very negligible cost.
Well, and you're just talking about in terms of what we're doing with current technology. Something that's going to become increasingly of value going forward is more interactive technology or cloud-based thing, in which case the lag from the speed of light limitations becomes an issue. And you're going to want primary nodes or feeds coming from somewhere realistically within 1,000 to 1,500 miles to you, because otherwise the lag is too much. And the only way you can really guarantee that is to completely distribute the network, because then as the network grows stronger, the lag goes down.
Yeah, I mean, this is an issue. Actually, there are all kinds of ways of approaching this issue. People might think, well, it has to do with torrents, but really torrents is just a case of us taking control of the network and saying, well, my friend is he's probably going to listen to the same shows from the BBC that I do. listening to or whatever. And the reason is people tend to listen to the same content, especially at a given point in time. So if I watch something that was on television 2 days ago, it's likely that somewhere around me will listen to the same